Hi, everyone. It's the panel discussion again, and we're going to be discussing hopefully lots of art and KDP and Pinterest and pick Nate's head.
I guess before we jump into this, since I'm kind of the ringleader, I want to introduce myself, Stephen Hibbert. I know it says wingman down on one of these corners. One of these directions is my brother, and the other one is Melissa. I think yesterday we left off on a really high note, kind of ending the day on like what suggestions the speakers would give to people. I just want to like reiterate those because I think they were very powerful, and I don't know how many people got to watch that replay, but almost all the speakers unanimously said that you should start by focusing in on one thing. Don't get overwhelmed. Ryan really pointed out, pick one or two things to focus on. It's way too much information to try to take it all in and take action on all of it all at once. I think for the rest of us, it was clear that we've all worked together. We have relationships. We've done different projects. Like I said yesterday, this presentation, this conference, these people getting together wouldn't have been able to pull that off without Nicole's help. Melissa taking the reins and kind of leading this down and taking responsibilities of what needs to get done in all the hecticness. I think that is sometimes my strength, but then I go and see a shiny object and then I'm far left or far right, as my brother can attest. But I think everybody kind of brings a piece of information to this, and we want to help you guys get started, scale businesses, have success. Today was extremely information heavy. We learned about KDP from Jenny. We heard from Common doing research. Nathaniel talked about art. Then we had, was it Amy? And then you, Melissa? I'm sorry, I forget the actual order. So you learned about marketing, you learned about optimizations. There's a ton of information in there. I would suggest going back, watching those videos multiple times because there's always little gems that you miss out on. I had to go back and watch Melissa's a few times, even though I'm feel a little bit more versed in Pinterest now, especially getting to talk to Melissa and pick her brain about it, but there's still a lot of nuggets in there and facts. I didn't know it was that big of a search engine. I didn't know how evergreen it could possibly be. She went into a lot of the data, just a ton of information. If you missed it, go back and watch those sessions. But Nathaniel is kind of our guest of honor here today. He talked about art. So I think a lot of the conversation now will be about art. I know that's like one of the major questions that we get when we talk about POD. I think some people kind of get the keywords and the niche. That's fairly easy for them to grasp, but then they really struggle with the art. I think coming out the gate, you think your art has to be at a very high level. And I hope Nathaniel's presentation showed you that. It doesn't have to be like that. He has some core principles that he follows that I'll ask him here in a second about. But I think anybody can do this business. If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have felt differently. Nathaniel showed free programs that I've been able to use and take my art to the next level and been able to have success with my own designs, which I was like, I'll never be able to figure that out. I'm not an artist, nor do I really care to be. But seeing how simple it can be to create POD products and put them across multiple products on multiple platforms, I just truly believe anybody can start this business. And I think it's pretty easy to scale once you have those core principles. But Nathaniel, since you're here, I think John just jumped in. If you want to start us off with your mantra that you ring all the time.
Yep.
And then just kind of from your viewpoint, how you got started in art and why you think kind of anybody can do this business.
Yes. So for anyone who missed my presentation, because I think that's the only way you wouldn't know this mantra, because I say it about 50 times in my presentation, but it is bold, clean, and simple. And that's what I have used as kind of my ruler, my guidelines for when I'm creating art, is just to keep things bold, clean, and simple. And I think those three words, they can mean a lot, but if you boil them down, like I'm trying to just show you guys that it doesn't have to be as overwhelming to create art. And there's a lot of different things that the word art covers. As I showed again in my presentation, like art on print on demand products can just be words, and that can work and that can sell really well. So you don't have to think that you got to do the next like Mona Lisa or paint something like really fantastic to be able to sell print on demand. It can be fairly basic things as long as you understand your customers. That's really the bigger point there. You asked, what was the second thing? How did I get into art?
Yeah, how you got started. I think it's An interesting story from your point of view, how you kind of backed into it, went and worked a traditional job, and then went into online. If you just want to tell that story a little bit.
Oh yeah. So Stephen is my brother, if you guys haven't figured that out yet. And Stephen has been selling and working online for much longer than I have, but it's always been something I kind of helped him with, whether it was packing boxes when we were doing FBA and all that great stuff. I did that because I made a little bit of money working with Stephen, but mostly because it was something to do with Stephen. But while I was doing all of that, in the background of my own time, I was doing graphic design just because I was interested in it. And I started working for my church. They needed someone just to make slides. And so I figured out programs on how to do that. I initially got into some like online based ones and then moved into Photoshop and started getting fairly good at Photoshop, where I built up my confidence to actually like go sell some of my designs to people who I knew needed them or were doing like flyers for school or whatever, like even school projects I was helping people with, just because I really loved design, and that was a good way for me to kind of get my feet wet and understand the tool. So that my passion for design plus Stephen selling stuff online and understanding the Amazon world, when Merch by Amazon came out, it was kind of this perfect moment for me to jump into it. I was at the time working for a screen printer, which was kind of the height of my professional graphic design career. I got that job because Stephen pushed me into it. He saw that I liked doing design work. He saw that I was helping another client, just like a freelance job that I was doing. They needed some t-shirts, and he saw that I had a good relationship with the people that I was printing the shirts. Like I was actually interested in it. So he just pushed me to talking with this company. They ended up needing someone because their head graphic designer was going on, I forget the term when you have a baby and you get a couple months off. But yeah, they were leaving for a short term.
Paternity.
Thank you. Maternity leave. So I got to jump in as their head graphic designer, like from day one, which was really fun, and just get my feet wet with that business. So I kind of knew, after a while, I really knew the t-shirt business. I knew graphic design, and then I had Stephen to help me with all the online stuff. So really, Merch by Amazon came out at a perfect time for me to jump into that world and really feel like I had the skills and the tools that I needed to have some success over there. And we definitely did, which was very exciting. So that's kind of how I got into the print-on-demand world.
Yeah, I guess I wanted you to share that story because I think people look at you and go, oh, he's so young, he doesn't know much. But your story, you've kind of backed into a lot of things and jumped out of your comfort zone and had successes in many different places. And I think really what it is like you're not afraid to fail, and we often fail fast, and then learn from our mistakes. I think that's kind of why we've been teaching people now. Not that we're experts or gurus. I think we just come at it from a veteran's perspective. We've been in this game for many years, selling online, failing a lot. Now, instead of everybody taking those same lumps and bruises and failures, learn from our mistakes. That's ultimately where this came from. Brian said, hey, you guys have had some success over here. Why don't you help other people? And it was kind of mind-boggling to me. I was like, everybody should know this. Like, if you've done any kind of thing online, you should know these lessons. But it was clear that it was like, oh, we've tested and tried a lot of things where other people might not be as comfortable getting out of their own way, trying things. We just go, hey, we'll figure it out. We might mess it up the first time, but we're not going to mess it up a second time. We'll figure out these relationships. We'll find out how to actually use this skill to earn money. But I guess to back up the day, KDP was kind of what Jenny started on. I think it's one of the easier things to get into because there is very low barrier of entry. With Merch by Amazon, I think selling on Amazon is great. Merch by Amazon has a registration that you have to kind of go through. Not everybody gets accepted. KDP, there is none of that. As soon as you apply, you get the account, and there is no limits to uploads. You can upload as much as you want. I think it's an amazing place to test and start. I think one of the biggest questions we have when we talk about KDP is, oh, you have to learn how to write a book. I'm not a writer. And I kind of love answering that question because I was like, I dropped out of high school. I said the same thing when Jenny talked about KDP. I'm not a writer. I'm never going to write a book. How am I going to be able to use that? And then she just explained, like in her presentation, you can do journals, coloring books. There's so many opportunities that you can go down where you don't have to actually write very much. We made a lot of fishing journals, fishing logs. Nathaniel helped me out with a whole bunch of that just because I was like, I don't know how to format this stuff, but I have a brother who's an artist. We can make these internal pages and test out these different covers and go after so many different niches in the fishing space, fly fishing, surf fishing, beach fishing, freshwater fishing. It was just an interesting way to test out something that I was like, I'll never be able to write a book, then put up hundreds and thousands of books, almost testing out the system at times where we got denied, where it was like nobody else is really getting denied because they're not pushing that many books, but we were always testing the limits. But I think what Jenny pointed out was just there's multiple opportunities with that. She talked about bundling. She talked about helping other people. We use it as a testing ground, KDP. I think some people see it as a business model, but I think it's in POD. I don't think you should put all your eggs in one basket. KDP is Amazon. Anything that you're doing 100% under Amazon, I would be very cautious of. I think that's why Melissa wanted to bring in other speakers to show, like John, who's going to be talking tomorrow. You can do opportunities on YouTube, using your content, building an audience. That's a lot safer way to build a business than 100% on KDP. But I guess since Nathaniel and John are here, I'll ask Nathaniel. I know when we started KDP, cover creation, all that stuff was not in my wheelhouse. How do you think your skills learning like just POD design and t-shirt design, do you think that will help you in creating journals? And I think for the same thing with t-shirt design, I think everybody assumes your level of graphics have to be high, but in reality, what kind of skills can you have and success that you can have on KDP? From a design standpoint, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, without like sharing screen and showing you guys how simple it can be, I will tell you that I spent years trying to understand Photoshop and Illustrator and all these big name graphic design tools by Adobe, which is like the leader of the industry. And now whenever I'm making a t-shirt design, not every single design, but more often than not, I'm going to a web-based graphic design tool, which you can open on your phone, your tablet, all these other programs. So it's really amazing how far the technology side of things, as far as like the software to create designs, has come, because now it allows a lot more people to jump into it without going through years and years of online training just to learn a tool of how to make designs. So there is a tool, again, I talked about it in my presentation. I will talk about it a lot because they're updating it and I'm really excited about it right now. But Adobe Spark is a free tool that can allow you to create both KDP journals and also more traditional print-on-demand designs as far as like t-shirts and hats and all that great stuff. So it's one program, it's free, it's online, and it's pretty intuitive. It's not maybe the easiest thing to jump into if you've never done any design work at all, but as far as an online-based program or as far as design software goes, really, it's the easiest thing that I've seen people being able to get into and understand how to use, and actually creating competitive designs that you can go out and sell. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but just to show you guys like the background that I'm coming from, where I spent months and months and years really learning these tools to feel confident to go then approach a t-shirt printing place where I can like go apply to be a professional graphic designer. You know, that was a very long road, and now being able to turn around and like in a couple of months give Steven the confidence that he needs when we're still trying to figure out how to use this tool for him to go do it by himself. And now I feel pretty comfortable that you guys could learn this in, I don't know, I don't want to overestimate anything here, but like a month or two to really get comfortable with the tool, and then being able to create designs for yourself, you know, without having to go through a ton of training or anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess creating a book cover, like creating a shirt, it doesn't have to be super elaborate. I mean, I have a ton of books on my bookshelf. I mean, this is just a ton of text, but just like this shirt, if you can type letters out and creatively put them together, I mean, you can see that this is a play off of The Office. We have Wingman merch. The ink is turned sideways, but there's not a lot of actual graphic work going on here. And this was something that Nathaniel pointed out with the Bold, Clean, Simple. He showed just like easy comps that you can put together inside that free tool that Nathaniel's talking about, Spark. There's a lot of templates that you can use. That's my bread and butter. I go, here's an idea. What templates can I use to get this idea as quick as possibly up on this product and test it out? And with books, it was like, oh, a lot of these are just black backgrounds with text on them, or there's photos that I can pull from this tool and use as book covers. You have to line things up. It's a little finicky in the beginning, but once you kind of have that template, you can knock those out very easily, and anybody can build those templates. I guess
Stephen, if I could say something there too. Sorry, you missed me being here and just talking all over everybody, right? This may have been said already, but you know, I'm a perfectionist. And so I'm always wanting everything to be perfect. And, and I'm thinking I have to be, do all this extra stuff and things like that. Nate, you've seen one of my shirts that's sold. And I'm like, this is so crappy. It's so bad. But it was just a simple text-based shirt, and there wasn't a whole lot to it or anything like that. But people bought it. And so, it's going to go back to, don't overthink it. And like I said, you probably covered this already, but I'll just reaffirm that. Don't overthink it. It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get up there and be done. And so, that would be my contribution. Don't overthink it.
We have a couple questions over there for Nate. Is in Spark, how do you get it to download the design at 30 DPI?
300 DPI, that's from James. So keeping things bold, clean, and simple.
Before you go and answer that too deeply, Nathaniel, just explain the question a little bit, if you can.
Okay. So I'm assuming, James, that you're trying to do KDP book covers because they're asking for files that are 300 DPI, which is a dots per inch, which is basically like the resolution of something when it gets printed out. It's done by dots per inch. And so 300 DPI is kind of like the standard, especially when you're printing out like photos or anything that's going to be very graphics heavy. But as Stephen just showed on that book where it's just text on a white background, if your designs are not like super involved, less than 300 DPI is okay. If you're looking to do something that's more robust than that, maybe moving outside of Spark would be good, because Spark at the end of the day, or really what it was created for, is made for social media designs. That's why it's a pretty simplified graphics tool. So we're using it in a unique way that they're not necessarily promoting yet. Hopefully, we're working on that. But they are downsizing the images because when you're looking on things on social media, it doesn't have to be this amazing piece of artwork that's going to be able to be printed out. So we have made designs inside of Spark. We've printed them out. It is hard to tell that they're not 300 DPI because they're not super graphics heavy things. Even if you put a photo in there, you're going to be okay. But that 300 DPI is like kind of the standard for printing things out. So I won't get too choked up on that, James. What if you do want to hit that 300 DPI mark, you can go into other tools like Photoshop or Illustrator and any of the other ones out there.
And the other question was, can you download a transparency background design?
Yes. So in the top right-hand corner of Spark, when you're all done creating your design, you can select download, and then there are 3 different options. There's JPEG, PNG, and PDF, which I think might still be in beta. I need to check that because they just did this big update. But the PNG one is what you're going to select. And after you select that, it will ask you if you want a colored background or a transparent background. The color background will take whatever background color you're currently working on. And transparent will only take the things that you have actually put inside of the artboard and download it that way.
Cool. I think that's all for now.
Cool. Did you ask me a question before that, Steve? I can't remember.
Yeah, but that's fine. I was just trying to get to the fact that anybody can make these designs. You don't have to be a high-level designer to do POD.
Oh.
And the barrier to entry is now with this free tool, I think anybody can do it. I think this is why a year or two ago I was saying you kind of have to have an artist, you kind of have to have a keyword. But I think all those things are merging, especially with the tools that are coming out and Spark. Canva, there are other free tools. I just like Spark because there's so many templates in there and it's so easy and it's getting updated all the time, and the information in there is from Adobe, a company that's known for designs, to pull from their templates, to pull from their art, their color swatches, whatever you call those. Mm-hmm. It's like it's coming from years and years of experience that I just get to tap into and leverage quickly and get things out. I'll let you answer, but I do have another question. I think for everybody, I think this is something that everybody kind of asks. But you had something that you were going to say, anything? I don't know.
Yeah, just thinking about like questions I get asked, and like I understand like the creative block. I still have it to this day. Like when you sit down and like, okay, I have this idea now. I want to create a shirt. Like, what do I do with this? I tried to give some examples for shirts, but especially for books. Even as someone who doesn't read a ton, I have my own little library that I could look at of like book covers. And so looking at what has already been created can give you inspiration. I'm not saying go out there and copy exactly what has already been done, but especially if you have books in your home, or if you just want to go to a bookstore or maybe look online nowadays, it's a good thing just to look at what has how other people are creating book covers. Most of the time, there may be like one image and some words. They're not usually like this overproduced thing or this like magical thing that you want to hang on your wall. It's like just trying to convey like, this is what this book is going to tell you about, right? So you can look at other things for inspiration. Don't just sit down and look at a blank canvas and be like, okay, I got to come up with something creative out of my own mind. Trying to look for things that are going to inspire you is a really good thing. And like Stephen said, inside of Spark, there are actually templates and even things for social media that will like give you pictures and words. And sometimes you can just use those, especially when you're creating a book cover. It's a lot easier to use a picture as well.
Yeah, I guess I'll ask this question a few different ways, but I think I'll target it towards the panelists. I get a lot of questions, I'm sure you guys do also, that are, should I do A or B? And I think a lot of our answers are going to be very similar, but I'll start with you, Nathaniel, since it's your panel was today and it is art. If someone comes to you with two different designs and asks, which one should I do? What's your normal response to that?
A response that I would be angry if I got from somebody, but my response is to try both of the things. So the beauty of print on demand is, for most of the marketplaces that we're listing in, it's free to make those listings, and it's to our benefit that we get to post both of those. We don't have to make the final decision. We don't have to be the person buying the shirt as well. We can let the audience or the customers rather tell us what they like more. So if you're trying to decide between blue and yellow, maybe just try them both and see which ones your customers enjoy more. If they don't like either, then you can go back to the drawing board and try green and all these other colors and designs. There's so many ways to just tweak things, and that's something that me and Stephen have done extensively, is just like, okay, we made this design. Now what happens if we add a little orange mark here? Wow, it sells way better. That makes absolutely no sense to us. But for whatever reason, our customers like that more. So we're going to now add orange marks to the bottom of all the text of our shirts or whatever. So it can feel a little overwhelming where you're like, I could literally do anything and put it up there and see what works. So maybe having a system is a good thing. But if you're really struggling between which of these two designs do I put out there, definitely try both of them and let your audience or your customer base decide.
Something that we learned, I think, from doing websites was A/B testing. And I think this is kind of carried over to our POD mindset. And I think it just allows us to do both, because most of the time when you're making that listing, it doesn't cost you anything. And you can literally test both and see which one works better. And like Nathaniel said, sometimes we make small tweaks and it takes off and it outsells that other one by a lot. But I guess, Melissa, the same kind of question to you. On Pinterest, if people come to you and say, hey, I'm going to make a pin, which one's better? What's normally your response for that same kind of question if they're coming to you with two different ideas?
Well, my answer is going to be the same as Nate's, is that you would put both pins up. And then what you do is you put both up, and if one gets more repins than the other, then that's the style that everybody's looking for. So then you would create more that are like that pin instead of the other pin. So yes, you would end up testing both of them. I mean, because Pinterest is just like your print on demand. You can put up as many pins as you want. They're going to stay on there, and you can tell which direction your customers like. It's great for marketing because it's free and you don't have to pay to A/B test.
That's what I was going to say. That A/B testing normally costs a lot of money. You're going to have to use a tool or a program or be on top of it and really know what's going to work. But with Pinterest, with POD, with a lot of the things that we use, you can do both, and it doesn't hurt you or cost you anymore. John, I know your presentation is tomorrow, and you're going to be talking about video. How many people come to you and ask, hey, should I shoot this video this way, or do I title it this way, or thumbnail? It might be a little different, your response, but I'd be interested if
it would be the same. I mean, at some point, the idea, you have YouTube. YouTube, while not being a closed system, that you have, like Facebook, like Pinterest, that there's people who follow you or whatever, and they're same thing on YouTube. People subscribe to you, but you have the power of search on YouTube that goes into Google, and you really do want to use that power when you're doing A/B testing, when you are using different types of keywords, different types of titles. What does your thumbnail look like? Use them all. and try different A/B testing. Same thing with your videos. What style do people like? Because at some point, everyone's a critic, and if you ask, they will tell you, well, what do you like? And it's being direct with your audience, or using them as your guide, because they are just like the audience that you want to have, because they like you, or they, and the most critical that you get are those that you want, because they care enough to give you that critical opinions. And so yes, it's a fact that when it comes down to personal style and how it looks, you continue to spend time on that. But testing, again, is the A/B testing. I go back to, I've never been quote unquote a salesman, but I always knew about you always test your sales balloons out. It's the fact of, well, what works? Well, you see in increments what works, and then you move on to the next thing. What works, and that's goes along with A/B testing, and then especially in video, or with all creative, it's your style. Because if it's not something you're comfortable with, or that you really want to do, or that makes you passionate, or makes you happy, then the further away you get, the tougher it is for you to do it.
Yeah, I think it was just a mind shift for me to go and look at it that way, especially coming from selling OA, RA, just selling online, reselling products, then selling private label. It was like, you don't have the option to really do much A/B testing. You are putting a lot of money up front to do anything. It gets more expensive the more tests that you want to run. But then with POD, it was fascinating that I was like, oh, this opens up this whole door with testing. And I love testing, because as soon as I get the data, then I know what the right answer is. Should this shirt be blue? Should this shirt be red? Like, it's an unknowable quantity, but the fact that you get to test it, and test it for free across multiple platforms, because it might work better blue on Walmart, it might work better red on Amazon. Those are things that you can test fairly easily and inexpensively, and have a lot more sales. It's just an interesting concept with that A and B. I wanted to ask Christy, but it looks like she fell off a little bit, because I know
Actually,
with
let me
mindset, it can't be both.
so from a lighter moment, Nathaniel, you were talking about Adobe, right? Do you know where the inventor of Photoshop is from?
Oh boy, no.
Again, there's a commonality of where I'm at, where you guys used to be. He's from Ann Arbor. And so he actually lives up in he lives up in Barton Hills. I've known this for probably 20 years, and friends of mine were like, "Oh yeah, the guy that created Adobe Photoshop is from here," and that's the complex of University of Michigan. It was brought out. Sorry, just I thought I would just try to stump you, but
yeah, Daniel's a huge Adobe fanboy, so that's might play into that. Something in the water up there.
yes.
Yeah, I'm already thinking I'll have to go see if I can locate him.
Yeah, Bar Hills, like, we know that area. I got friends
Right.
going enough doors. We do have some questions in the question area, Nathaniel. I don't know if you want to look those over.
They're mostly for Shopify, and I also put in there that one of the reasons why to use Shopify right now for print on demand is that Pinterest is allowing you to drop your whole catalog into Pinterest now directly. And every time you update your listings on on Shopify, it'll automatically send them over to Pinterest now. So there's a whole new process for doing that. So I'm not a Shopify fan, or at least I wasn't. I'm a WordPress fan, but I might be moving back to Shopify just because it's easier to download that whole catalog.
I'll go a step further, and I'm not sure how this is all interconnected, but I just posted an article actually in one of my groups where Shopify is now connecting with Walmart. They partnered up with Walmart.
Yeah.
I think big opportunity there. So
the game is always changing, and something that we touched on yesterday is having that network. I don't know how to tie all that stuff in, but I guarantee you the network that we have, we can learn very quickly and kind of start testing and have group think to figure out what works best across those platforms. This is why you want to get involved with other people. I know Common said yesterday, reaching out to the speakers. I think that's a great opportunity, but even more important is getting to know other people that are in this space. Surround yourself with like-minded people. It's going to help you go further, faster, getting to know people. I say this a lot. I probably haven't said it on this, but I love working with my brother because he is an artist and he thinks differently than I do. And I'm sure he can say the same for me. Like, we think similar on very many things, but then when it comes to the business, we have like two halves of the entrepreneur brain, and we can test a lot of things, reach out to our network and get a lot of things done very quickly. And we're young and ambitious and we stay up late and don't sleep. But it's just fascinating to hear that information. I was unaware of that. I knew Melissa told me about the Pinterest integration with Shopify, but this is the first time I'm hearing about Walmart integrations. But if that's new news, this is something that we will go back. We have a mastermind call. I'm sure we'll talk about it, find out how we can actually use it, and then all implement it into our business. That's just one of the great things I think about this business is there's a lot of collaboration instead of like cutthroat. We're all working together to try to figure out what works best across multiple platforms, multiple products.
Yeah, James was
Yes.
asking about that fact that you can download it, and I will be doing a little bit more investigation in it, and I will come out with a training on how to do it, because you have to get Pinterest market certified, which is right now is kind of hard. It's not just apply and you're approved. So I got to do a little bit more investigating, but I will come up with some trainings for that.
Is Melissa, or is that per store, or is that just the integration is someone who is certified?
Yes, there's a Pinterest marketing. You get a little star, and what it does is it allows you to load that catalog in there. There is other platforms that you can do that with, like WooCommerce and stuff like that. But from what I understand, the Pinterest one with Shopify is the smoothest. But one of the other points is that that's the new Facebook shop is doing the same thing with Shopify. So you'll be able to download your catalog into Facebook shop too, that they just came out with.
Yeah, I wonder if I can reach out to, I know Kyle does a lot with Shopify. I wonder if I can reach out to Jason Miles and maybe get him on the panel tomorrow night to talk a little bit more about Shopify, because I know that's his.
Kyle is going to be on tomorrow night. So
Nathaniel, I saw you through, there's two separate chats. One's the question and answer and one's the actual chat. The questions in the question section, I saw you answer that one. I don't know if you wanted to say it out loud so everybody can kind of be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, so someone asked, where do we get the products that we're adding these designs to? I talked about in my presentation how you can make print-on-demand designs, but didn't show you guys where you can add them to. One reason is because there's a lot of them out there. So the way that we refer to them as print-on-demand platforms, so they're basically companies that are allowing us to do this print-on-demand business model. The one that I suggest you start with or get your feet wet with at least is redbubble.com. It's because it's very easy to sign up for, and there are a ton of pretty high quality products on there that allow you to see how your designs would look on all these different products. It doesn't have the greatest marketplace attached to it, so you can't really, not that you can't, but it's hard to just throw a design up there and have a bunch of sales as compared to a print-on-demand platform like Amazon, which is a little bit easier to do that. But the problem with a Merch by Amazon account, which is Amazon's platform, is that it's a little bit harder to sign up with. I use Problem, I probably shouldn't say Problem, but the one drawback that Merch by Amazon has is that it's harder to sign up for an account, meaning that there is an application process that you have to go through. So it's not like you can just sign up tonight and start getting your listings up, your products up there, but you can do that with Redbubble. So if you are looking to try this out for yourself, I would suggest checking out Redbubble and then maybe looking into Merch by Amazon to see if you can get an account there. But there are a ton of print-on-demand platforms out there, all with their different benefits and reasons why you would want to sign up with them.
Yeah, I almost think we should do like a breakdown of the different platforms that you can sell on and the ways to integrate, or if that company like Amazon has a way to sell directly through them. I think Amazon has multiple pieces to it. Merch by Amazon is the way that you can sell apparel. KDP is the way that you can sell books and ebooks, physical books, softcover books, and ebooks. Then with Shopify, Shopify doesn't have a direct company under them to do printing, but there are a lot of integrations that you can do with that. I'm sure it's the same with Walmart. I don't know of a tied in company with Walmart that they have in-house, but I know there's a lot of companies that you can tie into Walmart and sell print on demand through that platform.
Just a quick correction. I'm not 1,000% sure, but I know Shopify was working on having their own thing, so that might be out there. I'm not sure. I got to check on that. But just to say that this marketplace is always evolving and more people are getting into print on demand. So Shopify is seeing all these people coming here and doing print on demand. So they're looking at getting into the game themselves. I'm not sure if they have done that yet, but I heard murmurs that that's coming.
Yeah, and I guess for concept, like each platform has positives and negatives. I think Shopify as a platform has a lot of positives, but you do have to drive a lot of your own traffic to it. There are a ton of integrations, so you can do probably the most print on demand options there, because there are metal companies that are print on demand, there's jewelry, there's all kinds of stuff, but you just have to integrate them with Shopify, which is a hurdle. I was going to say a problem like with it, but it's not a problem. It's just more of a process to add that to your store. But once you have it locked in, it's not like every time something sells, you have to redo it. It's just an integration that you have to sign up for. And then as soon as you kind of have it dialed in, it's working. And you can create multiple listings through that integration.
Well, and that kind of goes along with all the marketing that we talked about today. I mean, and that's why tomorrow he'll be talking about YouTube, because you can promote through YouTube over to Shopify or over to your Amazon listing. And you can use Pinterest to do the same thing. You can use Facebook to do it. You can use Instagram to do it. So
all of the social media platforms, and the idea of being able to drive traffic is, it should be part and parcel of what your business strategy is. And, when you start thinking about, your products and, your print on demand, specific products of what you want to do, and then come up with, the strategy to go along with all the different platforms of what works. As I talk about tomorrow, video by any means works best from an engagement standpoint, because when you start putting words onto a screen, how many okay, so there's 3 of us that are probably older, but these 2 guys right here are of the age group where I don't want to read anything. And then you start talking about the fact that how much content is being consumed on a device, and to sit there on your phone or whatever to read something doesn't make a lot of sense. And so using all of these different platforms in a video manner, but even using Shopify, using any platform you're on, if they give you an ability to put video up, that engagement continues to rise. And so for your websites, for Shopify, for anything that you can do, that you're adding value by having your content that is either, if at the very least an audio, but even from a visual standpoint, because at some point, why are we all, showing our faces? Why are we trying to engage with you by being here in person? If it was just as easy as, hey, let's do a phone, conference, would it be as engaging? No. And so the idea that you can bring video to make engagement that much stronger, and then people will come to feel like they know you, or that emotional side really comes to to, oh yeah, I like this guy, or I can relate to him, or he's got the scratchy stuff under his chin, and that's what I do. The fact is that because you are showing yourself, because you're talking, because you're presenting a video, because you're being interactive, um, that turns into engagement, and that then turns into conversion, which are sales. Or you know it, sales, but what's the second best thing? It's the fact that they sign up for your email list, or that there's something that from a lead magnet, that again they're giving your contact information and you're leaving them with something. You never get that opportunity if they stick onto your Shopify, your website, and they leave. So you just lost that opportunity, not only for that sale or that conversion right now, but for future. And so just thinking in terms of, I have a lot of conversations about lately about pre-rolls. You do these great videos, but a pre-roll is something of a almost an advertisement at the beginning of your video that says, hey, if you love my videos, click below, subscribe. I mean, it's as easy as that when you start to get down to the nuts and bolts of engagement, because if you can help them identify what you want them to do, that's the key, and be very direct with that.
Yeah, I think it's an element that was unclear to me in the beginning, especially when we started turning on the camera. It was all bad. I think we sat way back. We looked like we were about to rob somebody via the data. It wasn't a good situation, but it turned out to that interaction and engagement was a missed opportunity that I didn't understand in the beginning. Making videos was so powerful because of those relationships. We did grow and know our customers a lot deeper. And then the flip side of it, something that's happening a lot more now, is companies are reaching out to us. When we got started, we were trying very hard to work with other people, and it was like pulling teeth almost. But as soon as we turned on the camera, like the roles reversed almost immediately. People were reaching out to us to work with us. Nathaniel just was coming back from helping my father. We had emails that were sent to him because he has the support now to our business. And then he forwarded it to me and said, oh, here are some more opportunities for us to work with additional companies. What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? It was just like, oh, I remember the reverse role of this and how difficult it was to try to work with companies. Now that we've turned the video on, here's a benefit of it. People get to know you, trust you, and like you. That's kind of the key for working with other people, building those relationships. Even though it feels very one-sided at times, like I'm talking to a camera, it feels fake sometimes, especially shooting a video. It doesn't have that connectivity of like sitting down and talking to a person, but people on the other side of that camera get to build a relationship with you. Then when you go to live conferences, it's always funny to me sometimes, like people jump in and start conversations in the middle. You're like, oh, this is the first time I'm meeting you, but this is not the first time you've met me. So it's a little weird, but it is that relationship piece that is just a different side of it. What John was talking about is building the relationship with the customers. I was taking it to another level and just talking about building relationships with other businesses to grow additional opportunities. Ryan yesterday talked about multiple streams of income. This was something, again, that was not on my radar when we started shooting these videos, but it's becoming a bigger piece of our business, and more opportunities are coming our way because we've turned cameras on. People see our face, they get to know us, like us. They like my little chin hair. It's just interesting to see how this thing grows.
And it's one of those things that if you don't want to be in front of the camera, you can still get influencers. There's plenty of influencers. If you happen to be making shirts, like he said, in the fishing niche, there's a lot of fishing videos on there. So contact them and see if they'll wear your shirt or at least promote your shirt. So you can always do it that way too, if you don't want to be the one on the camera.
So let me one other point to influencers, and just in general to the idea of who we know as personal, as professional, as company relationships. There are lots of businesses out there that have lots of people who are following them, but they have no idea how to engage with them, or they have no idea how to monetize. And exactly for what Melissa talked about, you could have the fisherman who has 20,000 people following him. Hey, that's great, but I don't make much money from that. It's great that I have all these followers, but so you can come in and talk about, print on demand. I mean, print on demand is very active for a lot of influencers. That's where they make most of their money, is print on demand. And it's amazing as I follow, especially YouTube creators, and talking about, how to monetize. That print on demand is so huge. I mean, the ad money that you can make from YouTube and some of these other places, that's kind of nice. But the print on demand stuff, because people want to be identified with who they like, as YouTubers, as influencers, and they keep buying and buying and buying whatever for print on demand. And so if you're able to come in with, again, the higher level relationships, or knowing them, that, partnerships evolve. And again, multiple streams, and I would say that everyone probably on here has multiple streams in one way or another. That's what this is about, is the fact that the relationships you build are the relationships that turn into your multiple streams.
Agree. And it is interesting to me, going more into video after talking to John and just seeing like, oh, there's a huge opportunity here. We know a lot of people that are building multiple streams of income, and we know influencers, but it seems like the influencers don't quite know how to monetize. There seems like there's a huge interconnection piece with that, and that's why I'm going a little bit more into video. But yeah, talking to some of those influencers and seeing that they have a huge following, and their monetization on that is very small. Or if they are doing affiliate links, their percentage of their profits is very small for that stuff. So even suggesting POD, where the percentage is more than 3%, like on an Amazon affiliate link, is huge to them and changes their whole business model. But I think yesterday we ended on a high note of going around and asking people what suggestions that they give to people just starting out. I think today we went kind of heavy on the information. I wanted to step that question up a little bit and answer it from a perspective of like, if someone's started and they're thinking about adding something new, what would you suggest to them? And I think from Nathaniel's perspective, I'll ask the same question I did yesterday, because I think a lot of people are trying to get into art. Nathaniel, if someone's getting started with, like me, no art background, not a huge fan of art, but I do want to start a POD business, what suggestion would you give them to get started and start building that skill of design?
So something I did a lot when I was trying to learn Photoshop was just looking at other people's designs and trying to recreate them inside of Photoshop. Again, not for reselling purposes, not to take their ideas, but just simply to see if I could create something that somebody else has. So if you want to use Steven's shirt as an example, as a shirt I made, you can create that exact shirt on Adobe Spark. So I would suggest looking at something like that, going in your own closet, finding your favorite t-shirt that you have, if it's not too overly complicated of a design, but going out there and seeing the type of designs that already exist and trying to create them for yourselves, just so you can understand how to use the tool. I think that's a really good place to start. Still something to this day that I do, especially when I'm finding new software that I want to use, or if I just see a new type of design that's being put out, like a pattern or something. I just go and see if I can do it for myself, and then I can improve upon that or use it in a unique way for my own designs. So that would definitely be something I suggest. Go look at some t-shirts, see if there is a few that inspire you, that make you want to create something similar to that or that exact thing, and then trying to do that inside of Adobe Spark is a great next step. You can do it wherever you want, but Spark is probably the easiest thing to get into as far as actually getting it. As someone said in the comments earlier, they said Photoshop's super expensive and it's really hard to learn. I completely agree with that. And Spark is free and it's fairly simple to learn and understand. And if you did miss my presentation at the end, I put a little bonus in there of how exactly to use that tool. Not a step-by-step guide, we do have that as well, but just a quick rundown of what that tool is capable of if you want to see it in action before you go sign up for it for yourself.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, I say we like I'm doing the design. Nathaniel and his team is designing our shirts. They use many different programs, but I would say 90% of our shirts could probably be created inside Spark. Like there are a lot of simple designs, text only or text based designs that can be created with simple tools like that. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to learn Spark because then I'll have to learn another program to even get my business to the next level, I'm pretty sure you can run a business just off of Spark now, and especially all the additions and new tools and stuff that they're adding in there. I think you can do most things in this business. There are some heavily designed shirts that we have that are coming from artists that have gone to school, that have done major projects. They create very high stylized designs. I don't know if you could do that in Spark, but you could make something similar, make it very quick and easy. And I like Spark because you can save those and go back to them and then tweak things very easily, download the additional tweaks, and then upload and test very rapidly. Whereas Photoshop, it was like a nightmare. They opened it up a few times and tried to show me, and I was like, shut it down. I'm never going to learn that. This is not part of my repertoire. I'm not learning how to do that. But I guess I'll ask you a follow-up question to that, Nathaniel, because I want to keep today on like that growing your experience. Somebody that wants to take their design to the next level, what would you suggest to them? Say they start on Spark or they start on Canva and they kind of have like a baseline, but they do want to go that next level. What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because Spark is not the end all be all. It's a great tool. It allows us to do a lot of cool things in print on demand, but it is not the most robust tool out there. Shopify. Photoshop is expensive and it's hard to learn, but there's good reason behind that. It's an expensive tool because you can do a lot of things. It is literally the industry leader when it comes to photo editing and design software. So I personally would suggest, you guys already know I'm a fanboy, so this is a very biased opinion that I'm going to give you, but I suggest if you like designing and you're feeling kind of held back by what you can do in Spark, go check out Photoshop. There are the Creative Cloud, that's like $25 a month. So I know it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but if that's something that you're looking for to improve your skills, Creative Cloud comes with a bunch of tools that try to help you learn that software as well. And it is a great kind of next step from Spark, if that's what you're looking for. It's not necessary, but if you are a creative person and you're feeling like, okay, I like what I can do inside of this tool, but I want to be able to nudge this exactly where I want it, or curve this text exactly how I want it, or do a million amazing things, I definitely think Photoshop, or even more specifically Illustrator, is really the tool that you should be looking at, as that is specifically for this type of design work.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't. Sorry.
One thing about Adobe too is that if you go to their website, you can go through a lot of their free training, so you can see if you really want to learn Photoshop.
Just to see how much it takes. Yeah, that's a good idea. It was at one time kind of put behind, like, you have to go to college to understand how to use this software, but now they see a lot more individuals using this, not just for making movies or making advertisement, like actually posters and billboards and things, but like just people like you and me using it for print on demand, or to make, birthday cards for their friends or whatever. So they try to make it more accessible. And really, with this latest iteration of Creative Cloud, I really should be getting paid by Adobe after speaking so highly of them. But really, with Creative Cloud, I think they've done a really fantastic job of trying to make it easier experience to learn, rather than just throwing you in there with no tutorials or anything.
The other thing too, YouTube is our friend.
Yes.
I actually, when I first got into print on demand, I wanted to learn how to do Photoshop. And so I went in and I taught myself how to do the basics. Am I a guru at it? No, I'm not. But I can go in there and comfortably navigate around and do everything that I need to do just by learning, just by going through. And I would watch it and then stop it. Like everything, I would stop it and then I would do it, and I would watch it and I would stop it and I would do it, and I would watch it and I'd stop it and I'd do it. And it took a while, yeah, but there's a great deal of satisfaction for starters and teaching yourself things sometimes. But YouTube is a really great resource, and there's lots of different styles of training there. So, don't, if you watch somebody and you're like, no, this is, not going to do it because I can't get it. Just try somebody different, because it might just be the teaching style as opposed to what they're actually teaching too. So just a couple of thoughts for that.
That
I
is a
guess
funny point that I claim I'm a self-taught graphic designer, but really I am just like, I got my degree from YouTube, basically. Like a lot of my education and learning came from YouTube. Yeah, that's what I built my graphic design career off of, was just watching videos on there and trying it for myself.
And being a youngin', he got that advantage, because when I went through graphic design, there wasn't much on YouTube, so I had to go to college for my degree.
I guess I just wanted to qualify that question with, if you're interested in art and that's the direction you want to go in, it's not a requirement for running a POD business. I always say, if it's something that you don't want to do, hire it out, because there's no need to spend a ton of time frustrating yourself, getting angry, when you can hire an artist to do that part of your business. Focus in on what you're good at and grow that skill. I want to ask you that same question, Melissa. I don't think marketing is like a step one that you should do. I think you should learn a platform, learn how to make listings, optimize. There's a few different steps before going into marketing. But if somebody's ready to get into marketing, what advice would you give them for doing that? And I think you're going to lean heavy on Pinterest. So
Yes, I am, because it's the cheapest way to learn marketing. Honestly, I mean, because we talked about platforms that you can do print on demand on. Yes, a lot of them will put your listings up on their platform, but they just sit there. They have thousands and thousands of listings on there. So if you design something, you put it on there, there's a good chance that you might not get even seen. And of course, optimization always helps. Even on their platform, you still need to know what keywords and stuff. So that's why I say Pinterest is one of the best search engines to go to, because you can go in and visually see what kind of shirts are selling and what people are looking at, and if they're being repinned and so forth. And I showed you guys how to see how many times it's been repinned and stuff. Go in there and look. If you see 3 or 4 shirts that have the same type of saying on it, most likely they're selling. So it gives you a foundation to start in, and then you can grow your strategy from that. But as long as you start getting sales and you get that confidence behind you, you'll know what your audience is wanting.
yeah, so it's a great way, like you said, it's a free way to get into marketing, to start testing your marketing skill, growing that muscle. And not only that, but it's a great place to go and pick up marketing information. Like Melissa said, go and see what's popular, go and see what things are being pinned, see what posts are very similar to one another. That's a clear indicator that something like that is selling. How can I draw inspiration from that and create something similar and give myself a certain footprint or foothold in this niche, in this space? You're going to be doing a lot of the same styles of research. Like Common said, he broke down a lot of what he talked about in his video. It's almost similar when you're doing the marketing. A lot of that research is the same. You can use it across doing research to build products and doing research to know the marketing side of the business. John, I know your presentation is tomorrow, but I want to ask you that same question. I think that might fall into the marketing category. I don't think it's the first step for building a POD business, but if somebody's looking to get into video, what would you suggest, or what would be some things that you suggest for people getting started going down and building video content?
So I think the first thing is to just have a clear direction on what the videos, what you might want to talk about, because at some point, the toughest thing is actually either, putting yourself out onto a screen, or honestly, in much the same way, to put your creative out. And are people going to like it? And social media is definitely a good guide, but can also be pretty brutal. If you put something out there and no one views it, well, crap, what happened? And so probably the idea of having a good first step, doing it, and then evaluating what happened, and either continuing to go forward, or take the feedback loop, change parts of it, and try it again. And so the interesting thing about YouTube, and with most everything is there. It's your time and energy, not so much that there's a cost to it. It's your time and energy to put into it. And so what you put into it, what you can research out there and see what other people are doing, and then taking action with it.
It's definitely not a first step to growing a business. It is an opportunity and an option. If you feel like you're more of a influencer, I guess that's kind of like a dirty word that people use, but if you
Very
feel like
dirty.
that's your lane, you can start with that and then add POD in after. But if you want to start a POD business, it's not a requirement. I do think
Right.
it's a very usable piece. And John talks about in his presentation tomorrow, you don't have to be in front of the camera all the time to make a lot of those videos. He has and talks about programs to use to make very product specific videos and how he does that. It's not him making hundreds of videos. He actually has a way to crank those out. But it is a piece that I think you should add to your business. Video content, like he was talking about today as he's presenting on tomorrow, it's a huge growing piece and it's not going anywhere. People like me, people like Nathaniel, we are not going to read long form text, but I will put on a video and I'm probably going to play that video at 2 to 3 times speed just to get the information and go watch another video. And the generation is just changing. But Christy, I know tomorrow we're going to be talking to your VA. What are some suggestions that you would give to people for taking their business to the next level and actually having a business that people work underneath them and for them?
Yeah, and actually we touched on this a little bit a couple of times since I've been even on this Q&A call, about the importance of outsourcing and the important, if there are things that you don't like to do, or there's things that you're not good at, or there's things that are just, you don't want to do it. It's super, super important to, to approach your business with the perspective of, not trading your 9-to-5 job for a 9 to midnight, business that you're doing everything yourself and being the Lone Ranger for. And so, for me, if I wanted to be able to still have a life, still have some time, still be able to, function in my everyday world, and still wanted to grow, I needed to start outsourcing things. And so, for me, I started that with the print on demand side of things because my primary business was Amazon FBA. That's where my primary income was, but I wanted to build the POD side of it. And so, I taught myself how to do Photoshop and I taught myself the basics and everything like that. But in order to grow and scale, I really needed to hire somebody. So, part of our system, and we're going to be talking about this tomorrow, part of my system is that, I have taught my VA how to do each of the steps. And then we've also outsourced the images as well. Nate has the daily flight service that he offers, which is, a way that you don't even have to worry about the images. You can even be hands off with images if you want to. And between working with Ella, who is my VA, she does all of the research. She gets the information over to Nate's team. They do the images for us. It comes back to our house, to us. Ella takes it and uploads it. I can be 100% hands off. She just checks in with me and lets me know what she's been doing. And so suggestions, I know that I kind of went off on a tangent there, but suggestions, don't be afraid to hire out. Make sure that you do have, a clear idea of what you're looking for and ask lots of questions. And going back to John, what you were talking about, and Stephen, of course, I know you talk about this as well, relationships, relationships is super, super important. And when you're hiring somebody, don't look at them as just a robot. Stephen, I love that you said that word, when we talked about this before, don't look at people as a robot. Look about building relationships, and you can go so far in your business. My VA, I can literally, like, I could go on vacation for 2 weeks and not do anything at all, and she would have everything under control. And I could trust her with everything that I'm doing because we've built a relationship. And so, make sure that you are paying attention to not only the hiring process, but also about building a relationship with the people that you're hiring.
Yes, relationships, relationships, relationships. I think this whole conference is about relationships. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without the woman of the hour. I'm so glad Nicole jumped on. It's all about relationships. This was a idea and a concept that was put together very quickly because we were able to rally and get help and put something like this together. Nicole, I want to ask you that same question for going into this and taking your business to the next level. Once you kind of have a platform, you have some products going up, you've done a little bit of marketing, you kind of know the direction you're going to move in, maybe even hire a VA. What would you say is the next step to building that business after picking that POD platform would you suggest that they go after? I know that was a very open-ended question.
Well, I think diversification is probably going to be your best bet right now, because I think, I think people are learning that on one platform there's a lot of great opportunities and a lot of great platforms, and building your own Shopify store, selling on Amazon, selling on Etsy, selling on eBay, selling on Walmart, like all of those options are available to you. And with what is happening, you never know when something may happen with one platform or another. So I think the biggest lesson, since I've done a couple of summits now, is that people are learning the importance of not just learning about a new platform, but also diversifying when possible. When you get to that place where you can scale, you need to diversify as much as possible. And so that way you're prepared for, oh, okay, well, this place is shutting down or this is shutting down, because merch shut down on everybody and they weren't expecting that. So just being diversified and being prepared to pivot when you need to.
Yeah, it's not if, it's when. When one of your income streams stops, you do not want all of your eggs in one basket. We learned that very early on. Merch has burned us a few times, especially when Adeno was getting his business started. He was all in on merch. Then during Q4, they shut everything down. They froze the accounts. It was a very big lesson that me and Adeno went through to go, hey, this is probably not the best way to run our business. Have all our eggs in one basket. Leaning on merch, leaning on Amazon is not something I preach anyway. I think getting away from Amazon and getting multiple income streams like Nicole talked about is the best thing. And I think with POD, it's the fastest way to scale that because you're building assets along the way. The research that you're doing can be used for helping you do marketing. Research that you pull can also help you create videos. There's a lot of cross-pollination that you can have with this business, and it's very low income. You can kind of dip your feet in, find what works best for you, and build your own POD business. I would say we all have POD businesses and they're all wildly different. Nobody else has a brother that does art for 15 years or has been selling online for 15 years. Nobody else has the experience that you guys have. It's all custom built businesses. I think I'm probably most jealous of Christy because Christy came in, learned from us, and then just applied it immediately and then went on to the next thing. I was like, oh, that's the most interesting way to just bolt on a business and then move on. I was like, this is interesting because now it helps me teach that anybody can do this business. Because I was like, before, you have to have one or the other. You have to have this skill or that skill. And I learned from Christy, you don't even have to have that. You can, at least as long as you have the basics, hand that off and then grow a business like that. I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this. I know Melissa, and I would love for Nicole to close us out because she had such a great
He's good at
closer
it.
yesterday.
He's a lot better than I am.
I want to say thank you for everybody for joining us. And Nicole, if you could send us off with another powerful message, I appreciate that.
Oh, you guys are so funny and so awesome. Hey, Nate, I miss you. So there's my buddy Nate. I spent some time with him too. So I just want to say to everybody who has signed up for the summit, first of all, we are so glad that you're here. And we hope that the summit is a blessing to you and your business. We really hope that you get some golden nuggets. And we want to make sure that you take the opportunity to kind of go back over your notes. You still have time until 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the recording. So go do that. Listen to the recordings, latch on to one, maybe two things that you learned today that you want to maybe implement in your business over the next 3 to 6 months. Don't try to implement everything you learned on day 1 or day 2 because it's like trying to eat a whole elephant. It won't work out for you. So after you figure that out and you figure out how you want to strategically implement pieces of the summit over time, and if you bought the All Access Pass, you'll be able to go back and listen to it as many times as you want to. We want to encourage you to take action because that's the biggest thing. If you don't take action, if you attend this summit and then you go register for the next summit and you go watch these YouTube videos and you don't take any action, it's not going to affect your business. So at the end of the day, it is about either affecting your business or making a decision that this is not for you. If this is for you, take action. If this is not for you, bless somebody else with this information. So we want to also encourage you to share this out, share information about this summit with other people, because there is a lot of things that are happening right now. And there are a lot of people that maybe are struggling financially, trying to figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to keep the lights on, how they're going to keep the water coming out of their faucet, how they're going to keep a roof over their head, how they're going to keep food on their table. And I believe personally that e-commerce is one of the most simplest ways to get started. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be work involved, but it is a way to get started. And print on demand is one of the best ways to get started with little to no money and zero inventory. Like, that is one of the best and easiest ways to get started. So share this with somebody, because if it's not for you, maybe you are the vessel that's supposed to bless somebody else with this information. And that is the one thing that people don't ever think about. They feel like, oh, well, I probably should have shared this with Bill or John or Sam. Go share it with them, because that may be the Lord leading you to do that. So go do it, because you could be a blessing to them and they could take off in this business and do amazing things. And then maybe circle back around and say, you know, that summit that you told me about, I was able to use that to take care of XYZ. So go and do that. Be a blessing to your own business. And if this is not for you, go be blessing to somebody else. But share it out, because there are people that are struggling. And my last tip, if you know a business owner that has a brick and mortar and they are trying to figure out, they don't want to close their doors, maybe there is something about this print on demand that could bless them. So there are brick and mortars out there that are struggling. They maybe don't want to close their doors. Share it with them. We just want to encourage you to share it with as many people as possible, because somebody somewhere needs this information, and it might be you that delivers it to them. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you so much.
That's the closeout right there. We do clean up after that, drop the mic, turn it off. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, everybody, for being on the panel. Thank you guys for watching. We will do this again tomorrow. We got another full day of great presentations. You're going to learn even more about how to scale and grow your business. Again, don't be overwhelmed. Take in the information, go back and rewatch it. You cannot implement all of this at one time, but we're trying to give you as much information as we can to help you start and scale a print on demand business. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.